They got saris. They had never had a new sari. They got new saris, and they got a blanket to help keep them warm, because sometimes in the evening, and if you can see where they live, some of their little huts that they live in would humble you completely. So they're all holding up their blankets. And then again, this was a gift from an anonymous donor that wanted to help the widows and some of the lepers.
Dan, you talked about the Sharon Foundation that you could give money to. How did you get the blankets from here to over there?
No, they bought the blankets there in India. Anything that is provided to them, India is an amazing place. You can get just about anything you want there, and good quality. And these were very good quality blankets. So yes, that's how we. The only thing we ship over there are books, not Bibles, but like devotionals, like the blue devotional, the green devotional, and so forth, books. But they can even purchase Bibles, and these gentlemen here from India can tell you way more about that than me. Okay. Yeah, this was in a tribal area. You know, I don't see too many of these photos in the city area, but in the tribal area, you'll see lepers. And when John and I were there, we saw a huge colony of lepers in a tribal area. And so, these guys are discarded. Widows are discarded. Many times by their own family, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I've heard that once you're a widow in India, it's very difficult to remarry. I guess in some cases there are, but and among this class of people, it's rare. So let's go to the next one. This was a meal that was provided for these widows. Some of these widows, it had been is the first time they had ever had a sit-down meal, and I found that difficult to believe. And I asked for some more information on it. But some of these widows in some of the areas they came from, this was the first time they'd ever had a sit-down meal. So let's go to the next slide. And these are a group of about 150, 160 pastors in the Hyderabad area. And you'll see that sign back there. They have been praying for months for this conference. And they made a sign back there that said praying for the Lost Valley retreat. And these are the guys that are they're in the trenches, and they have churches and smaller congregations, but they are dedicated brothers. And there are a couple of guys here like Scott Gray back there and Ron Holcutt over there from Connecticut sponsor a pastor in this group here. And if you want to hear their story about what a blessing it is to be in communication with these guys, they know these guys are in the trenches, and they're out there sharing their faith all the time. And they do experience hostility. When the 6 guys went to India in November, there was this is just a group of. Ron, is this your guy group?
One to the left. One, yep.
Okay. Yeah. But when the 6 guys went to India, they had a very tenuous moment at one point. They were surrounded by some radical Hindus, and it was a very and they were in an outlining area, and these guys started following them, and they surrounded the car, and it was fortunately the police came, but they were going to arrest the pastors and the Americans until they could show that they had full credentials to do what they were doing. And so anyway, the guys from the USA saw that it's there is truly persecution in areas of India. So I wish I didn't go over to India with the 6 that went over there. Matter of fact, it turned out to be 7 because one of the men was in Bangalore, and he's a disciple of Li Yi, and he was teaching the doctors and the staff in a hospital in Bangalore out of the Green Meditation book. And he heard about the guys that are going to be in Hyderabad, so he traveled to Hyderabad and joined them. And the guys had they had 2 days of a gospel meeting. They had 2 days of a pastor teaching. They had a women's conference, a youth conference, and if you talk to them, it was an incredibly humbling experience. They had some moments that really broke them too. So if you do have a chance to talk to either Andy Fetzis or Trevor McDowell, John Henriksen, Larry Morris, Doug Herbeck, whom I miss, and John Yang, and one of the other Brent Mikosh. Those are the guys that went to Hyderabad. So if any of you guys want to know more information, you can see me afterwards. If any of you are moved by the Lord to want to adopt a pastor, and you're going to get his whole congregation if you adopt a pastor. You will get the whole congregation to want to know all about you. They'll want photos of your family. They'll pin it up in the church. They'll be praying for you all the time. But I warn you, your life will probably start to change. But it's a good thing. And like I said this morning, if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. And so I just praise the Lord for this whole thing. It was a really unlikely, taking a guy and a son, an insurance guy and a son, from Las Vegas, Nevada, halfway around the world. And to this day, I am just taken to the cross every time I get an email, every time I think of it. It takes me to my knees. I'm just so humbled for this. So that's just a little bit of an India update. I know that when Jonathan Norman, when you come up, if you'd like to tell how your involvement started from this, I think that'd be appropriate. And I look forward to our brothers from India. But thank you all very much, and I'm glad I could give this brief update.